called Four White Men.
It's called Four White Men. It's a new thing. It's called Four White Men. But political party scoopers, here we are with Jeff and Craig. And boy, this is really at the epicenter of political on this planet is Iowa right now. Welcome to you guys today.
Great to be here.
So who do you think on both sides of the party is doing a good job of the caucuses? Who's got the best ground game right now? Who do you think?
Okay, I've been asked this question 5,000 times.
And now 5,001.
Yeah, and now 5,001. And the thing is it's the wrong question, because the person who wins on February 1st that night will have had the best ground game. I mean, look, no one would have traded.
So far.
No one would have traded for Rick Santorum's ground game a month out. No one would have traded for Mike Huckabee's ground game a month out. They all would have went Romney. And so the thing is that, you know, I look at it, and so who's doing the right thing is the question I think matters more. A guy like Ted Cruz, who is on a 6-day, 28-stop tour this week, is right. You got to be here. It's no different than the Iowa lottery. You can't win if you don't play. And you got to be on the ground here. Ted Cruz is on the ground here. There's other candidates on the ground here. We're seeing Chris Christie.
Speaking of Ted Cruz, last night, Missouri Valley, his bus stop, 10:30 at night, had a packed room at a diner there. That's pretty impressive. How about on your side? Who do you like right now?
Well, you know, it's interesting. The Clinton campaign has run sort of a textbook campaign. You know, they've done a lot of smart things from start to finish. The one thing I've been hearing in the last week is that the Sanders campaign, and Bernie Sanders personally, has been out visiting a lot of smaller communities.
Yeah.
He's been in Jefferson. He's been in a bunch of different towns. And, you know, for these caucuses, if you have a candidate that visits a community and somebody who doesn't, it matters. And so I think O'Malley, too, has been to a bunch of smaller communities because he can spend more time at it. It was interesting, not this visit, because Clinton was in the state yesterday in Quad Cities and Cedar Rapids and here in Des Moines. Yeah. But on her last visit, she was in Keota, Iowa, with the Vilsacs. I thought that was a really smart thing for her to do.
Well, so Hunter Walker is the political director for Yahoo News. He wrote a great article. If you go to my Twitter account, you can see it at Brent Roski. He made an excellent observation that a lot of these smaller town caucuses will be decided by single-digit difference of numbers. So it's important for them to go there. Okay, they won these precincts because another 6 or 7 people showed up.
That's right. And in these smaller caucuses, right, if you only have 25 people showing up in a rural precinct somewhere, if you do get 3 or 4 people, it makes a big difference. For Martin O'Malley, it could mean that he's viable in a certain precinct if they only elect 3 delegates or something. So, you know, those things really do matter.
I want to ask both of you guys your opinions on this. So Trump just launched his new television commercial. He's going to put on, I think it's 800,000 here in Iowa, another 2 million in New Hampshire. Do you think it's a big deal that he used the footage from the other country for the run across the border? To me, it's a shot of B-roll. It's people running toward a border. But I think it's a lot ado about nothing. But what do you guys think?
No, I agree. I think it's one of those. Look, it's a unforced error that the campaign should have never had to make. I mean, you got to have people that don't do that, because in this day and age, it will be a news story. So it's a distraction. But I don't think at the end of the day it matters, because, you know, unless you're, you know, a political nerd like myself and you're reading that stuff, you know, my parents in Eastern Iowa, the people I bump into, you know, who are going about their normal lives and not consumed by this whole thing, they're unaware of it.
So Craig says no big deal. How about you, Jeff?
Nothing's a big deal for Trump. Like, he can say anything.
He meant to do it.
He can say anything.
He wanted to see if you were watching.
He can do anything. Like, literally nothing matters with this guy. I mean, you know, the old way of looking at politics and presidential elections, if you would have insulted John McCain and all POWs, your campaign would have been over. That was like 14 weird comments ago. Yeah.
I think it's fascinating. I really do. I mean, every time he does something like this, his numbers go up, or they stay the same.
No, they go up. It's crazy. And I think there's a new national poll out today that shows that he's even in a stronger position today than he has been in the past. I'm not sure how he gets stopped in this nomination process.
The biggest obstacle for Donald Trump is Iowa. And that's what people don't get. It's because it's a caucus, because it's a small turnout thing that you got to go to a meeting at a specific time at a place that you're not used to. But you go to New Hampshire in an open primary, you go to South Carolina, a state that I spent 10 days in 4 years ago. That place is crazy. He'll dominate that. If he's rolling, he'll roll through South Carolina. So the thing is, if he does well in Iowa, I think it sets him up to really be a strong candidate for the nomination.
Here's another topic I want to talk about. You guys are on the front lines. You talk with voters on both sides of your parties. What do you think the impact of surrogates is? We've got, coming in just for Hillary Clinton this week, you've got Bill Clinton, Lena Dunham, Governor Terry McAuliffe from the state of Virginia. Does it resonate? Is it just for their precinct captains, just for their volunteers, or does it resonate through to the voters? What do you think?
The only person on your list that matters is Bill Clinton, and it's huge. I mean, I'd go see Bill Clinton. I think
There you go.
he's an interesting individual. If he's showing up in your state, you want to go see it.
Yeah, and he did, so Secretary Clinton was here in Iowa doing 3 meetings yesterday, and I think all the national news coverage was about
him.
Former President Clinton in New
yeah.
Hampshire doing 3 town hall meetings for Secretary Clinton. So,
And I got to say, the commitment to the campaigning is pretty interesting because he was still on stage in New Hampshire when she was speaking on stage here in Des Moines. That's smart. Let's divide your powers up, and they know it's go time.
And they can.
well, and it's an incredible asset for the Clinton campaign. To be able to dominate what's going on in New Hampshire at the same time you're dominating what's going on in Iowa is an advantage that no other campaign can compare. There is no surrogate that compares to President Clinton. Not on either side of the aisle. I mean, Jeb Bush has talked about bringing his brother out, former President Bush, but that's not going to hold a candle to the sort of.
And it probably wouldn't help him in a Republican caucus or Republican primary.
Do you think,
quite honest.
So that was Democrats. Let's talk. Do you think Cruz right now is? I know he's polling technically ahead of Trump
Sure.
right now, Iowa caucus. You think he makes it through the caucus?
I think he's a front runner.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how he wears the final month, because I think that Iowa caucus goers on the Republican side, I think they're always looking for the alternative to whoever is in the lead. And so, so that's why I think it's so volatile. And so now Cruz is here, and we're starting to pick at him and to see how he was, stands up to scrutiny. The thing that he has going for himself is that he has all these conservatives in Iowa around him. Jim Dobson was introducing him, and to his crowd and to his activists, that's a really good thing to be doing.
The last thing I want to talk about, O'Malley. When I ran for U.S. House, I came in a couple signatures short as well. You know about this Ohio? O'Malley's not on the ballot in Ohio because the signatures came in short. When I ran for U.S. House, I scheduled in days to fix your signatures because it'll happen. What do you think? Big problem for him?
Well, if he catches fire in Iowa and New Hampshire and then gets to the point where Ohio matters for them, yeah, it's a big challenge because there's a lot of delegates at stake in a state the size of Ohio.
Folks, that's it for our time.
No.
Party-
Oh, I have one more question. I know the producer wants us to wrap up, but this is way more interesting than anything I'm going to say in weather. So on the one side, we have the 2 leading candidates on the Republican side that the party does not want, right?
The
establishment wing of the party.
Right.
And on this side, all I see is Hillary, and I feel like Bernie never gets attention, isn't getting a lot of help from the party.
Oh, I don't think that's the case at all. I think, Sanders is polling near 40%, is within striking distance of Clinton, is ahead of Clinton in New Hampshire. So I actually think that, the race is actually pretty well joined, and it's a Clinton-Sanders race. And O'Malley's trying to, get something going.
And I thought when Biden got out of this race, and Hillary Clinton went above 50% in the polls, and Sanders was at 30%. I thought that was his ceiling. I thought he was never going to get this competitive. And here Sanders is. He blew through 30%. And I think he's problematic for her in Iowa. I think she's got a real race on her hands here. And if she's going to win it, she's got to put in a lot of work, and she's doing it.
What about the other side, your side?
Our side, I think on the Republican side, if you look at the polling, it says 2-person race. I don't believe it when I've been out and watching this thing. I think at the end of the day, it's going to turn into probably a 3-person race. Maybe even a 4th person becomes interesting and will impact it. So I think it gets bigger on the Republican side.
And by the way, Sanders did call it a couple days ago. He goes, I think I'm going to win the Iowa caucus. He said it. New York Times covered it. So anyway, thanks for watching Political Party Scoopers.